went down to Branson, take class. Well, they had a whole bunch of people. Anybody's interested in the program, I got this year's. But I don't know, they had 20, 25 different very good carvers you had a choice of taking classes from. Anyway, I chose Debbie Edwards just because I always admired her work. I only saw photographs of it, and her carvings, when you see them, are even better than the photographs that you see in Chip Chats or Carving Illustrated or Carver of the Year a couple years ago. Very nice person, explains things very well. It's obviously easy to come up with a good piece when she's guiding you, because that's better than I usually do. Well, let's be realistic, it is. Anyway, quite a few people have asked me about different aspects of it, so I thought maybe I'd just kind of go over the class and anything you want to know about the techniques or things of that sort as go along, and I don't explain it well enough, or maybe just skip over it. I'll try to do my best to remember everything she supposedly taught me. You know, I can hardly remember yesterday, let alone the first of the month. Basically, everybody in the class, there was like 12 of us, I think, did a mountain lion. The class itself, she would get us all together, and she would had a piece, and she would demonstrate a little bit on it and tell you go back and do this and this and this, and then she'd bounce around and make sure you were doing it right, steer you clear. And her directions were very clear for the most part. I don't think anybody had a terrible time following and doing what she wanted to do. It was a new experience to me because, first of all, I'm pretty much using chisels and knives for most of my carving, or once in a while power, but she does everything with gouges. I don't think she encouraged you or anybody, if you did it the way she told you to do it, used anything but a gouge, one size or another. One varying from about that wide for rounding out to little tiny millimeter or 2 millimeters for some of the texturing. I had never used so many gouges in my life. And the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, you watch her carve and she'll hold like this and everything's like this. And, you know, I mean, first time I saw her do it, I said, she's going to have one sticking out of her and blood's going to be spurting all over the place. And somebody almost immediately asked her about it, and she says, well, if you try it, you not only find it's easier, but it's also safer. I suppose if it makes you nervous, get a leather apron. But I've tried it, and it is. It's easy. You got real control over it. I never hit my belly once. No, that would hurt. It looks strange, but you try it, and it works. So keep some Band-Aids handy and try it. Anyway, we started with a round out, rough out, whatever you want to call it. I decided when I do it, I was going to take some pictures, and I took one after each day. And if I had to do it over again, maybe I'd take one after every half day, because there's always some leaps and jumps between. Is this going to work? This is kind of after the first day. The first one is a round out, closest to my fingers there, and we went from there to the one next to it in the first day. And that's nothing spectacular about that. It was just taking off excess wood, putting some creases, has a little turn, and you get a extra big crease in here and some wrinkles where the neck goes together, and trimming the ears down close to size and things of that sort. But once again, all done with a chisel, no straight blade knives. I don't know what she would say if you didn't use it, but she gave us instructions on what to bring size-wise and things of that sort, and if you didn't have them, she had extra ones you could use. I don't know if anybody used anything different or not. I tried to do it the way she was teaching, just to learn her techniques, if nothing else. But anyway, you can see very quickly it's taking shape. Of course, there's some pencil lines on there, which they weren't carved in yet, but you could see where the face is going and the nose and all eyes and all those kind of things. So the eyes were partly carved in at that point. And the second day was really kind of just more of the same. There we go. Got to try to get the glare off it. No.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And the other thing, if you're going to do this, I guess something if I'm going to do more of it on my own, all I'm going to have to do is learn a heck of a lot more about animal anatomy than I know now. I don't think there is a muscle in the face that you didn't talk about and say, well, you're going to make this cut and it's going to do this later on, and you do it, and you can't necessarily see it at that point, but when it starts to come together, you start seeing all these different things in little furry pouches and the set of the eyes and things of that sort. I don't know how long she spent studying anatomy, but I don't think there's a muscle in that mountain lion's head that she didn't know about, and how it was going to look on the carving itself. Almost reminds me of the first duck I tried on my own, and I discovered very quickly, and it sounds funny, but I didn't know what a duck looked like as far as the bills and where everything was situated compared to each other. I mean, I could see that's a duck, I knew that, but that's about all I knew. But you can learn, I guess. Anyway, from that point on, it was pretty much starting into the texturing, and of course, that's always the fun part when you start doing the detailing and things of that sort. All this texture on here is put on with gouges once again, but varying sizes. The hair in the nose up here was done with like a 1 millimeter gouge. Some of the other up here was done with, I don't know, maybe a 5 millimeter. And you can take some guesses on some of these. And some of this hair bigger yet. And I got a picture, but this picture is misleading. Where are we at? There we go. But anyway, you see all those gouge marks on there, but that's not the way you look at it. She says, you leave it that way, it's going to be pockmarked, almost like a smallpox or something. And she didn't really, at least I didn't get it anyway, she did, because several other people kind of had the same way. And she said, well, now, when you get there, what you have to do is you got to go back and you got to connect all those gouge marks. So, literally speaking, by the time he got done, there wasn't any place on there. Try it again. Where we got? There we go. You can come up and look at these later. There, is that better? Anyway, it still doesn't really show it. Anyway, the whole thing is covered with gouge marks. You know, right next to each other, close, no flat spots, no areas not done, with the exception, well, even in the inside of the ears and so on and done there. I guess the only place that probably weren't was the eyes. They weren't done. And once again, 3-4 different size gouges depending on what part of the face you're looking at. And it really looks rough at this point. You wonder how in the heck is it going to be that nice cat-like look when you're done. Though it still is starting to take shape, and you could start to see some character in it at that point. And the other thing, a lot of people had their gouge marks kind of straight lines. And she was very insistent that when you're doing your gouge marks, they're not, even though the hair line goes this way, your gouge marks go this way and this way, some straight. But she says when you get done, you should have a lot of V's, 2 gouge marks coming together, and Y's. I don't know how to make a Y. Gouge marks this way and one this way, but not in any, you don't want to look like a roof. You want them all varied and, not all on a line or anything of that sort. And you really look close, there's some going this way and some going this way, some straight. A little bit like if you're taking a wood burner and burning hair in a back of a duck's head or chests if you don't carve all the feathers and things of that sort. You don't want all your lines going exactly the same direction. This was kind of the same way. If there's any questions, don't be afraid to interrupt.
Jim,
Yeah.
did you use the bigger gouge first and then fill in with the little gouge in between? Or?
Not really, maybe a little bit, Bernie, but I used it mostly depending on if the hair was shorter, like on the nose. I used a small gouge on pretty much all of it.
But say like on his shoulders where
Yeah, I might have used different size gouges there. I know in the face area it was just smaller gouges. That would cause some variation, which probably would be good. Yes?
What size eyes did you put in there?
The eyes are carved. I think you knew that. But, yeah, I was going to talk about eyes in a little bit. But anyway, the next step as far as the texturing part is then taking a wood burner and wood burn the whole thing. And once again, you don't want all your lines going straight. You want some this way, V's and Y's and things of that sort. And she had us do it quite hot. The whole idea of doing it hot is, of course, you can get char marks in there. And she had no intention of taking the char out of there. We brushed it a little bit just to get the loose stuff out. But she was going to use the char marks as part of the finished look, shadings and things of that sort. As you can notice, I didn't paint all those little lines on there. Those are from the wood burner marks showing through. Painting was a kind of different thing, but she used very little paint. You'd be amazed how little time it took to paint this when we got it ready for paint at all. The eyes. She didn't really use any technique that was particularly strange to me. To start with, they pretty much, shape the eye. Very particular about placement, however, and making sure both of them were the same size and the same level and all these kinds of things. But very particular about putting the eyeball in. Generally speaking, I guess if I did most of my eyes, they'd maybe round this way, but they wouldn't be necessarily round this way. And with kind of flat spots on either side of it, which she referred to as the tear duct area. And anyway, we did those essentially, once again with gouges as best we could. And of course, a lot of us had little flat spots. It's hard to get that perfectly round area. But the roundness of them, and maybe why they look like a glass eye, because they are very round. We took the side of the wood burner, edge of the wood burner, turned the heat down. You didn't want a big charred eye, but kind of rub, what's the word I want to use? Burnish, yeah, there we go. I want to say gloss, but that wasn't it. Burnish the eye, and using the wood burner, we took all those little flat spots out just by rubbing it back and forth. And you look at it, and looked like it was a little lopsided, a little, then burnish it some more. And she's getting it real dark was fine, because one of the first painting steps when you went to the eyes was to paint it black afterward, which sounds kind of funny to me. I don't know how these people come up with these things. I would have never dreamed of taking a cat's eye and painting the whole thing black to start with. But anyway, and she's very, very particular about the lines in the brow. See these cuts in here and the cuts coming out of the eye, both sides. And once again, this is knowing the anatomy. We all had pictures in front of us, and some of them I could hardly find. In the picture, I could hardly find these cuts. After you really look, you could kind of see hints of them. And then there had one picture that showed them quite vividly. But and
do you have colored pictures?
I did, yeah. We were asked to bring pictures if we had any, and she had a stack of them. And in a sense, they all came out a little bit different too, because she said, well, I want you to paint it the way you have your picture. Pick out the one you like best and paint it in that color. And mountain lions are like a lot of animals. They're darker in the summertime, lighter in the wintertime. And depending on when your picture was taken, probably depended on how dark or light it was. And animals are like people. They don't all look alike, believe it or not. You know, I had 3 of them there, and they all look different to me. 3 pretty good shots to the head. Color-wise, you know, the general tones, but they're all very different from each other. Different amounts of white, the different amounts of red in it, all kinds of differences. Anyway, when that was all done, of course, now you're ready for painting, and I guess I showed you that. I showed you that one with after it was all burned, and there we go. Whoops. I don't think the eyes were done yet, maybe on this. Painting was, you know, I was a little bit worried about the painting part of it. I'm not the greatest painter in the world, but, you know, literally, if I didn't have to wait for some of the other people in the class, and she'd give you a direction and you go do it, and then you had to wait. Before you went on, she wanted you to wait for her. She'd come, by the time you come to look at it, if I took a waiting time out, I don't think it took more than 2.5, maybe 3 hours at the most to paint it. I mean, first of all, there's not much paint on it. First thing we did, which I sort of have done before, but is we painted the shadings in. The areas around here where the folds are, put a little, it was a combination of raw umber and black. She didn't like you to use anything straight out of the tube, which a lot of people told me. And around the ears, a little up here in the nose is darker than most mountain lions anyway. Definitely in the picture I had. Anyway, do all your shading first. Then after that, we put kind of the yellowish color in, and this was just a wash or two. Very watery. You really had to keep it down watery. It was a mixture of yellow oxide, burnt umber, and white. And once again, depending on your picture, you made it a little darker, a little lighter. And her emphasis, well, you make it light, you always can darken it. But anyway, then you just kind of slopped it all over everything. Once again, very watery. Didn't take any painting techniques because you were going to cover from head to I can't say from head to toe. Head to chest, you cover the whole thing with this color. And I don't know, a couple coats of that. Then after that, it was a matter of dry brushing. Everybody knows dry brushing? Essentially, you take very little paint in your brush, you dab most of it off till you barely can see it, and then you kind of rub it on across your top of your creases. If your lines are going this way, you rub it this way. And there's probably, maybe 3 different colors. One I had definitely showed red up in this area, showed some red down here. You really have to look for it now. But anyway, rubbed a little red, so you had that yellow color, and then you had some reddish spots on top of it. And then they all had some white around them, particularly around the eyes, a little white up in here. And once again, dried brushing technique, white with a little bit of raw umber in it.
Is that what they did in the front of the face with the white there?
Yeah, here?
Brushing too? No, right in the very.
Oh, yeah,
Mouth area.
yeah. That's a little bit more than dry brushing there. But once again, you put very thin watery coats on. You weren't out to fill in all your all the holes. You wanted the
Salt and pepper look.
burn marks showing through.
Do you dry it in between then,
Yeah.
with a dryer?
Well, I didn't have one, so yeah, it dries in 4 or 5 minutes. I don't- but once again, you know, to do the dry brushing, it didn't take more than 20 minutes, I don't think. And then after that, if you weren't happy with your shadings, you didn't think they were dark enough, you could go back with your raw umber black mixture and darken some lines if you want them to look deeper. And most people had to darken around the ears and a little bit in the ear when they got done. The nose, I'm going to forget the color. It was some type of crimson mixed with white, and
Alizarin?
yeah, it might have been. I don't know. Alizarin, that's something crawls around.
Alizarin crimson.
Yeah, it might have been. But anyway, and it looked almost like shocking pink to me, a little bit like your sweater, maybe not quite that bright. But then you take your raw umber and you dull it down, and it came out pretty close to what pictures showed. They do have pink noses.
What kind of paints?
Just acrylics.
Just any kind of acrylic?
Well, she suggested either liquid Tex or Josonia. She said it was 2 paints she liked best. She said definitely do not use the bottled paint, cream coat. Is that what? Cream coat? Ceramic coat. She says they all have sparkle in them. And you shouldn't use those. But any other regular kind of artist acrylics. She said you can do it with oil, and she likes oil too, but she says for a class like this, and everybody have to pack up and leave, trying to dry them and things of that sort was
Did you
a little
seal that?
problematic.
Did you seal that before you painted it?
No.
Just
I asked her about it. She says she didn't seal anything.
Now, how about after you paint it? You put like a matte finish or anything over top of it to protect it?
She uses tung oil.
Tung oil.
I didn't do it there. Took it home, put tung oil over the whole thing. One coat, she says, no more. If you use more than one, and then it starts to get glossy looking.
Did you brush it on or cloth?
I brushed it on. Yeah. I mean, the directions on tung oil says use a cloth or something or your fingers. But I brushed it on, then wiped it.
You can't go with the.
Just slopped it on. The eyes, I don't know, the eyes were really what make it. The eyes itself, as I said, you burnished them. They were pretty dark after burnishing them with your wood burner. And we took, she said, you can use just straight black for this, or you can use your mixture. Most people had mixture already made, so most people use the mixture of and you paint the inside of the eye, on the whole eye, just like that. When that dries, you're gonna paint, I hope I got my name here, the iris, the round ball in there. And that was your yellow oxide with a tiny bit of raw lumber in it. Okay, and then you paint the eye. Of course, you want to make very sure you get them all. This is where she was really particular. Told quite a few people to do it over again. Get your eyeballs the same size, not one looking this way and one looking this way, or upward, one down, one up, all those kinds of things. And then once again, taking your black-brown mixture, or just plain black if you want it, putting the pupil in. There we go. And she was talking about big cats. She says, you know, you got house cats, they get slits. She says, big cats don't get slits. So anyway, she's very particular to make it around. She was not in favor of putting a white dot in there like I've been taught by a lot of people who supposedly knew to give a glint to the eye. But even then, it still didn't look right. That yellow oxide mixture still looked awfully bright. So then we went back with that black-brown mixture, a little bit on the dab of the brush, and literally just kind of dabbed it and it toned it right down, and also gave it a very, I don't know what kind of look, I don't know, mean, glaring look. Essentially, painting-wise, you're done, except the eyes themselves have 3 or 4 coats of gloss varnish.
You want me to pass the folder at the center?
And the nose has 1 coat. And she's very specific. Nose only 1. The eyes at least 3.
You stand between each coat too, or not?
I didn't.
No. See a wall? Nothing.
I guess you could. She didn't say to do it, so I didn't do it. And once again, the eyes really didn't take a lot of time. I think it was the prep work to begin with that was more important than maybe even the painting, though I'm sure you could ruin it with a bad paint job. Then about the only other thing, she suggests putting something in the back. Says, oh, you said you might carve, kind of a relief carving, a cub or something too back there. I didn't have time for that. I had to get back, so I had to leave. So I just found a copy of a cat print and put a cat print back there, just for something.
How long was that course?
Well, it was 5 days, very honestly, but I don't think it would have to be. I found myself the first day waiting for her to come around. She wanted to only go so far, and I had to wait sometimes half hour, 45 minutes for her to get by some other people. Some people were not as experienced as others, so some of them took a little bit more time. I actually carved my wife a panda while I was doing this also. But it was Monday through Friday, and theoretically classes went to 4:30, but I bought 1 gouge from her because I didn't have anything the size that I wanted. I suppose I could say need it, but she had them for sale and they were reasonable. I bought a couple before I left. She sent a letter and saying this is what I use and would like you to have. No, she doesn't believe them. She says the V-tool makes too sharp of and they're not natural. So she likes to round it, shapes you get from them. I think she took I can't remember what she did with it, but I took just a thin blade and did something with it, just once, maybe cutting under the mouth or something, just kind of ran along. She doesn't believe in stop cuts, which is a little different from most carvers. They want you to, you only want to go so far, so you put a stop cut in there. She didn't like you to do that. So no stop cuts.
And that was basswood, right?
That's basswood. Yeah. Kind of hard piece of basswood, but basswood. I'm very impressed with her methods, her abilities to teach. Anybody like to go next year? I'm looking for somebody to go with. My wife says she shopped the whole town out and wants to go somewhere else.